Hi, my name is Johanna and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about this fragrance by Zoologist Perfumes. It's called Seahorse. It was released in 2021 and the perfumer is Julien Rasquinet. This is a aquatic, fresh, floral fragrance. It's listed as unisex and I do think it's unisex. I think anyone can wear it. I think, this is just my opinion, that it might lean slightly masculine. And that could be just because that there are more aquatic marine fragrances geared towards men than women, at least that I've seen. And so that may be part of it, is that just it strikes me as a little bit more masculine. But if you like aquatic marine fragrances, I really don't think there's any reason why a woman couldn't wear this. But I think it's definitely unisex as far as that goes. This says that it's an extrait de parfum, and I'll show you the bottle here a little bit closer so that you can see the picture on here. I got this off of eBay around the same time that I got the other two Zoologist fragrances that I've talked about in other videos on my channel, Moth and Cow. So I got this around the same time. I bought it myself on eBay. I ended up paying more without realizing it than I would have if I had purchased it on the Zoologist website. And the size here of this fragrance, this is 60 milliliter, which is 2 fluid ounces. First, I'll go through the notes with you for this fragrance, and then I'll tell you about my impressions. The notes are the same listed on Fragrantica as on Parfumo. In the top, fennel, Guatemalan cardamom, ambrette, which is also musk mallow. In the mid, tuberose, clary sage, and neroli. And in the base, algae, ambergris, and vetiver. Now, in addition to those notes that I just read to you that are listed, I believe that they have added some synthetic aquatic notes or note materials to this fragrance. I just believe I believe it's true. It just has a more, there's something like synthetic or maybe even like along the lines of aldehydes, but maybe it's not an aldehyde, but something in here. And usually with marine or aquatic fragrances, I believe they do use synthetic marine aroma chemicals as well. So they're not listed here, but I do think that they're there. My impressions on this are, well, shortly after I spray it on my skin, I smell something salty, and the saltiness is like a clean saltiness. There is something substantive behind the saltiness, but it's like a clean, it's like something clean that's substantive. And I think of one of the, I think it's called the fifth flavor, which is umami. And umami is kind of like a very like meaty, kind of like substantial flavor. And like, I think about, even though this doesn't smell fishy at all to me, I think about if you get fresh crab out of the shell, it has this like clean, salty quality to it. It's not overly salty. It's just a clean, salty meatiness to the crab meat. And that's how this comes across to me, umami. Also, I detect something waxy, and that continues throughout. Maybe slightly oily, but not in like a bad way, just maybe more waxy. And then after the initial dry down, about 10 minutes later, I feel like it goes a little bit powdery, somewhat powdery. The ambergris shows through for me. And the ambergris is more animalic than in some other fragrances. I mean, I think of like Baccarat Rouge 540. That one says it has ambergris in it. To me, that one doesn't come across as at all animalic, but to me, there's more ambergris in this one, and it is somewhat, there is something animalic there. The other note I wanted to point out is ambrette. And ambrette it comes from a seed, and I have ambrette here that I got from Eden Botanicals, which is a website where you can get perfume materials. And ambrette is kind of a difficult scent to kind of wrap your head around. At first it doesn't have much of a smell, but there is something nutty about it. There's something nutty, and people say musky as well. I don't necessarily get much musky from it, but I think it just depends on the concentration. So here I have it diluted at 0.1%. And yeah, so nutty. Also, Eden Botanicals describes ambrette as rich, sweet, nutty / seed-like, musky, floral, which I don't get floral from ambrette. They also say nuances of cognac, clary sage, and tobacco back notes, underscored with a subtle, sensual leather and animalic notes. Extremely tenacious. So that's why I have it diluted so far down. It's less than 1%, because it doesn't take much. And I think also may like develop over time in the fragrance to become more like noticeable. So I think that the ambrette is definitely a part of this fragrance that's noticeable if you know what you're looking for. And I'm thinking the ambergris plus the ambrette composes the center of this fragrance for me. And as far as the clary sage, I think of the clary sage here as creating a coolness, a cool freshness to this fragrance, which I think in marine fragrance, it's necessary to have something aromatic there to create that coolness that you would want. So yes, the clary sage here. And then the algae in the base. I don't have a lot of experience with algae materials in perfume making. I don't have any. I know it's out there, algae absolute. I'm thinking it's probably, from what my experiences are with algae on the beach, is that it does smell pretty fishy and salty. So I don't smell anything fishy here, but there is something kind of unsettling in this fragrance. And it's for me, it's usually marine notes that do that for me, but also probably the animalic aspects and the clary sage maybe adding to that. Regarding the florals, I don't detect much of the florals here. I think that they're obscured by the marine notes, but as it dries down, I mainly smell neroli. I have a neroli material here, and it's a pretty mild, somewhat sweet, delicate floral. Yeah, and it's in here. It's in here, but this does not strike me as a very floral fragrance. I think that the florals are really just within the mid, and they're not really standing out as floral, but they add to the whole effect. As far as the tuberose, I do have some tuberose material here. I have it diluted to 1%, and I probably should dilute it further because tuberose is really strong. And if you don't like tuberose, you probably won't notice it much in here. I don't notice it until it really dries down, and then it's really well blended. The neroli seems to be in a higher concentration in this fragrance than the tuberose. So the dry down on this, it still has something salty here, slightly animalic, fresh, cool, and also waxy. Yeah, waxy. I keep wanting to say oily, but it's definitely more waxy. It's like more thick, like it's just got a more thickness to it than oily. But I think that is definitely coming from the ambergris. So if you don't have experience with ambergris in fragrances, you might want to check this out. I think the ambergris is done well, as long as you like marine aquatic fragrances. Another fragrance that I have here that reminds me slightly of Seahorse even though it's not listed at all as a marine fragrance, is this one by Salvador Dali. This one was released in 2017 and it's called Sunrise in Cadaques. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Cadaques right. And the perfumer for this fragrance is Raphael Haury. This is listed as a woody spicy fragrance on Fragrantica, and Perfumer lists it as synthetic woody. So this is a more woody fragrance and more spicy. So I was trying to figure out what reminds me of Seahorse between these two. Because this one always has reminded me of the beach or, you know, somewhere near water. And it doesn't really have any marine notes listed, but it does say synthetic on Perfumo, which makes me think there are synthetic notes. And I see that they share the notes of cardamom and vetiver. Those are the only shared notes between these two fragrances. And Seahorse has fennel, which is an aromatic fragrance that has a licorice-like scent to it. And Sunrise in Cadaques has mugwort, Moroccan mugwort. I always thought of mugwort as having a licorice-like aroma, but I looked it up and no one says that's the case on Google. They say that this is more herbaceous and similar to clary sage, actually, but I think aromatic. So both of them are aromatic. And then in this fragrance, it does not have ambergris in the base. It does have musk listed, which don't know what kind of musk they used, but oak moss. So another similarity between these two is that I do detect something salty in both of them when I spray it. And I think that whatever's creating the saltiness in this fragrance, maybe a synthetic aroma chemical, but after the saltiness is something substantive as well. And for this one, I said I think it's probably the ambergris. I also think probably the ambrette. And in this one, I think it's the oak moss. The oak moss is giving it a substantive texture that is different from vintage fragrances in that it's not really strongly oak moss, but it's there. And I think that kind of is the backbone or backing for the saltiness. So these two are different in a lot of ways. No one would say that they smell alike, but maybe what I detected in the similarities was the cardamom and the vetiver, and then the quality of the saltiness with something substantive or umami behind it. And I do think of oak moss in a lot of fragrances as having a substantive umami quality to it. So yeah, so I'm not highlighting this one today, and this is Pour Homme. This is the one for men. There is a female version of Sunrise in Cadaques that I don't have. As far as lasting and projection, for Seahorse, it's not the most long-lasting fragrance. It has like a medium projection, I would say. It doesn't last a really long time, and I think that's just because it's a more delicate fragrance. The marine notes seem to last quite a bit, and like the ambergris, the animalic notes, but it's not, it's kind of like on the medium to lower end regarding length of, longevity and projection. I still struggle with this fragrance. I haven't used a lot. Here you can see I haven't used a lot of it. I struggle with it, especially in the morning. I just don't feel like I want to spray something that smells marine-like. It just kind of gives me this queasy feeling in my stomach whenever I smell marine fragrances in the first part of the day. I don't know what I would rate this fragrance because I feel like I'm not really qualified to rate it. It's not my taste. It's not to my taste, and I don't go for marine fragrances. But I did want to give you my impressions because it's kind of a hard fragrance to wrap your head around, and so I wanted to break it down and just talk about the notes and how they kind of go together in this fragrance. Well, thank you so much for watching, and if you like marine fragrances or have any thoughts on marine fragrances, please comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know some of your favorite marine fragrances. And also, if you've ever smelled Seahorse by Zoologist, and if you've ever smelled Sunrise and Cadaques by Salvador Dali, 2017. Let me know if you've ever smelled these fragrances and just let me know your thoughts. All right, well, I will see you next time.